Welcome to the Discover Solutions Show, autoimmune warriors embracing joy each and every day. Join Ryanne and Dr. Pat as they address the good, the bad, the ugly, and most importantly, the joyful. Not only will you get tips, tricks, and tools to help you embrace your wellness journey, but they will share the experience with you. Tune in to explore the physical, mental, spiritual, and emotional facets of having autoimmune. You'll learn unique tools to help you maximize your life. Do not put your life and your joy on hold until you feel better. Feel better now by putting your life and joy first. Stay tuned, it all starts now.
Yeah, it really does. Hey, I'm Dr. Pat, and I get to do this show. Ryanne, I have to tell you, I mean, this episode is finding a life purpose can change your life. It couldn't be more clear and important, Ryanne, than it is today. And it's so fascinating because, I work with different people, different young people in groups, right? And it's fascinating to see what happens when a little light bulb goes on and the eyes light up and it's like, what? I can do that. And so let's talk about this because there's so many people that talk about life purpose, but there are very few people that know how to get people from where they are to take a step. Why is life purpose so important? And let's just talk about that from where you sit. Is it only one? Do we have more? What's your sense of it? And how do you use this to help others?
I think about when you wake up in the morning, first thing, you wake up in the morning, do you want to get out of bed? Now, I think everyone deals with this, right? But then imagine that you have autoimmune disease on top of that, right? So you
Yeah.
wake up and you ache and you're fatigued and all of these things. Having a life purpose gives us a reason to get out of bed anyway, regardless of how we feel. And when you mention that light bulb going off, I so relate to that because I work with people, and when they find that life purpose, very often they say, wow, it's so simple. Why didn't I figure this out before? I don't believe that everyone has one life purpose. Some people do. There's, your gold medal Olympic ice skater, I
Yeah.
always think of, who, but from the age of 3, they're going to ice skate. And then there's others of us that are on this journey, and that life purpose tends to shift and evolve and change as we have more life experiences. I couldn't have been a combat trauma specialist until I had been deployed.
Right.
So before that experience, there was nothing to relate to. And I think a lot of people have that experience that something happens in their life and they can turn it into that all-encompassing, that energizing life purpose that
Yeah.
changes everything for them.
I did a show once and I remember talking, I can't remember who it was. It could have been Deepak Chopra, one of them. And I remember saying, this is such an interesting conversation because I think our life purpose is scalable. So I love that term scalable, right? What does scalable mean? Scalable became a really cool term when websites were really hard to do, right? When you had
Right.
to like code stuff. And, that term scalable became really important because people that bought the service on the other end were like, wow, this is going to cost me $5,000, but then what? How do I add on? So the idea of scalable is exactly what you just described. You couldn't have decided for yourself what your next chess move was going to be, and neither could I. I mean, when I started this 20 years ago, 6 months, I got very sick, autoimmune sick, and I couldn't do anything but buy airtime. So, how does it help us? How do we stay awake enough and aware enough to know that this thing that may be going on, this experience, this trauma, you being deployed in such, oh my gosh, an incredible way, how can we start to think the experience I'm having today could somehow shape my future?
I think that is just what we're talking about here. It's being aware. It's being intentional about our life and looking at what's happening today as as hard as it may be, or as beautiful as it may be, knowing that
Yeah.
this is one step on our journey and our future self has this moment in it. So if we're more aware of what's going on now and how it might affect our future, then we can, I believe, figure it out a little sooner, possibly.
Hmm.
I'm one that's very much at fault of never realizing that autoimmune could be part of my life purpose.
Yeah.
And it took a very good friend of mine to say, wait a minute, Rye, why aren't you focusing on autoimmune? And it was like this, it wasn't even a light bulb. It was a big neon sign spotlight
Yeah.
that said, oh, that makes so much sense. But it was so much a part of me, I didn't think of it as a thing.
Yeah, I love that you're talking about that because I think about the evolution of things here and sitting where I sit and what we're about to do with the network. But I think about the breadcrumbs, the pieces that came before. And here you are sitting in the middle of something, and somebody else has to say, Ryan, did you have? And sometimes we do that. Now, I want to talk about this because you are someone that helps other people open that doorway.
And I didn't see it for
I didn't
myself.
see it either. I had to
Mhm.
have somebody point it out to me.
Absolutely.
It was so interesting. In my case, it was, believe it or not, the angel lady, Sue Storm, who did. And it led me down a pathway in that journey at a time where the thing that I had was not popular, was not recognized.
Mhm.
And you go down a pathway and you think, if I don't find the right people to help me, but how does an experience like that then elevate us on a frequency that says, not only am I going to be a warrior for this, but there are other things I could do. I can now help other people because that's what you did.
Right, right. I think it becomes the point when the worst thing that ever happened in our lives becomes the best thing that ever
Yeah.
happened in our lives. And I think once you start to embrace that idea that of the lessons that it imparted. So for
Hmm.
me, having autoimmune for so many years, I fought that brain inflammation that causes untreatable depression.
Oh my
And I
God.
had to learn all of these tips and tricks because I didn't want to live that way. And I knew that in 5 years' time, I could either still be where I am, which was miserable, or I could know that at least I had done and tried everything I could think of to make my life better. Well, on that journey, as I'm learning these lessons and creating these tools, I went from a victim to a warrior.
Yeah.
And that's when that spark happens, that magic happens of, oh, I've got this. Even if I live with this disease the rest of my life, I've got this. It's okay. I can do this. And
Yeah.
I think that's when you start to see, oh, I can help other people too.
Yeah. See, the world has changed. And I go back to 2004 when I came down with the mystery disease. That's what they called it, right?
Right.
Because it was so, what is the word that I'm looking for? It was like one day, and no kidding, March 31st of 2004, I am great. April 1st, I'm giving a workshop with my friend Bonnie Barnard. Live your greatest dream. By the end of the workshop, my ankle was the size larger than a softball, but not quite as big as a soccer ball. And I thought, clumsy me kicked something. So I
Right.
go down that pathway, doctors, orthopedics, only to find out, no, there's nothing wrong with your bone. You've got something else. And you see, when somebody says you've got something else, you say, what is it?
What?
And they say, more to be revealed. Now, they don't say more to be revealed, but they kind of do. And I think there's a point that we get to. For me, it was the show. I was doing my show and I just started to interview people and I started to be immersed in the holistic community here in Western Washington and Seattle, Dr. Nushin Darvish, but also Dr. Ronnie. And as we went forward, we started to peel the layers back, right? they started to really look and say, these are your symptoms, but this is not the root.
Right.
And then we become warriors. And we become the warriors that get in between a great Dr. Overman, regular, and Dr. Darvish and Dr. Ronnie. And you have to learn how to fight for yourself to navigate those waters. Isn't that true? But also part of that is recognizing that what you're doing is perhaps sculpting a purpose you didn't know you had.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think I remember, the doctors, because I was very young, and they were telling my parents she needs a counselor, she's looking for attention, she's lazy, whatever. And I was in the nurse's office every single day of middle school. I don't know what's going on in that building, but something was, and it was aggravating things for me. So I went through all this time hearing all these things and thinking, am I? Am I really like this? I don't feel like I should be, but I guess I am. And I couldn't hold on to that. I couldn't own it. It just didn't feel right. And as I kept looking, um, and doctors wouldn't even, I'd say I'm miserable, I'm tired, I'm achy, and they'd say, you're just stressed. Um, change jobs. You don't
Yeah,
like your job. Well, it's not about my job. Wait a minute. So, but for some reason, I was stubborn enough to say that there are answers out there. I just need to find them. And I would keep looking and keep looking and keep researching on my own to try to find, until I found naturopaths who said, wait a minute, there is a problem.
exactly.
And eventually I found one, it was a fabulous specialist who said, yes, I know what this is, and this is my specialty, and we can do something for you. But it was the journey of getting from there to there
Mhm.
that taught me the skills, taught me the drive and the determination, because I realized at some point, no one is going to fix this for me.
Yeah. And I don't know when I got that. I don't know which point I got that at, but because I was so now in a place of doing something that was not on my radar to do. So we joke about it a little bit. I
You
used to
have
joke
to.
about it more than I do now, though. We used to joke. My friends would be like, okay, went to school for 10 years, $100,000 in student loans, got a doctorate. So what? You can be called crust busting your way to an awesome life? Because that's what the show is. And people would look at me like, you have lost it. Now, there's a part of it that I did lose. I had a spiritual awakening and I could not take that big fat degree with all those awards and go back into corporate America and say, hey, workers, it's going to be okay.
Right.
What is that? Welcome to the neighborhood. No, corporate, we're not going to be welcoming you to the neighborhood in corporate America anymore. And I just couldn't do it. Dial a wrong phone number and here I am. But let's talk about this for a minute, because sometimes we're guided even when we don't want to be. And I think the message for
Absolutely.
you and I today is to help people see this and wake up, right?
Mhm.
You have to see this. So one thing before we go, I want people to know how they find you, how they work with you. And the reason I want to say this is because autoimmune, I want to be clear about the bandwidth around autoimmune. This is something that you may not even know you're experiencing, but ask yourself, do I have pain in my body? Is there something that's happening with me that I can't stop? Is it a cough? Are my joints swelling? Can I not move the way I did? Have my cells stopped working and now I'm gaining like 50 pounds? What is it that's causing you to not feel great? That's when you pick up the phone and you call for help. Maybe you don't even know what autoimmune means, but I'll tell you, if you're having any of those feelings and you want support, you got to call Ryanne. You got to really look at this and look at the groups. How are people going to get involved in what you're doing? Because it's not just working with you one-on-one. You're forming groups. You're doing what we're planning to do, because you know what we realize? We're not doing enough. We've got to do more to
Absolutely.
bring people together. What are you up to and how do people find out about it?
Absolutely. They can find me at discoversolutions.net. Discoversolutions.net is the website, and they can go on there and find out all kinds of information. And they can sign up for our
Yeah.
program. Our program starts in January. And the second thing we do is we do an exercise that's designed to help you find your life purpose, or at the very least, what your priorities are, not on the surface,
Mhm.
but down deep. And
Yeah.
it's not an easy or simple exercise, but boy, it is so powerful.
Yeah. I want to give a shout out to my colleagues in recovery, addiction recovery. I want to give a shout out to y'all. See, one of the things that I want to say to y'all is that unless you're me or Ryanne and you happen to bump into a situation which opened the door for us to find our purpose, go get some help from her. See, because what you're experiencing is you probably think you're not going to make it in life. You're probably thinking, Pat, you did it, but we can't. No, no. If we're here talking to you, you can do it. But I didn't do it alone, Ryanne. I mean, this is what, if there is anything that I want to draw a line in the sand in now, and I'm like a broken record on this across the board for the past 10 days, this has been me. Do not do it alone. Go get help, go get support. So let's talk about your experience with coaching and what is it you do to help solve the problems that people are going through, despite maybe you're like in chronic pain. Maybe you don't know what's going on. Maybe you feel like you're crazy because, when you say autoimmune, people think, I don't really, you look pretty good, Pat. Ryanne,
Yeah,
you're looking pretty good there, girlfriend, right?
right,
And you're like, I feel like, you know what?
right. Well,
It's
we I believe in throwing everything and the kitchen sink at things. I don't believe in just one thing. So we bring together um, a bunch of autoimmune warriors so that we have that support. If and those people get it. They're struggling just the way you are. So you have that support right off the bat. And we start to analyze and assess. Yes, I understand you hurt. Yes, I understand you're fatigued. Those are things that you're going to live with. And hopefully, you're going to find someone to help you with those, a medical practitioner to help. I want to look at what are your strengths? What are your assets? What can we maximize? How do we help you want to get out of bed every morning? How do we help you want to find those answers? How do we help you determine that you are not only going to survive this, but you're going to thrive?
look at I want to talk with people about the end game for what you just said you do. See, there's an end game. I'm sitting here this morning and I'm writing two proposals to send out for people that are our clients now. And I realize when I'm speaking with them how disappointed they've been, how people promise to do stuff for them. I mean, it breaks people when that happens. Why? How do I know? I studied the consequences of broken promises for 10 years. I think I know a little bit about it. But now for us to be the solution of that. Now, why am I sharing this with you? Because that very first crust busting your way to an awesome life show that happened in 2003 with me paying a lot of money for airtime, when I got behind that mic, and I would love for you to talk to this, it was like coming home. It was like breathing. I'm not kidding.
Mhm.
And so I followed the breadcrumbs of what felt good. I did. And then I got sick. And by the way, all I could do was keep paying for airtime. But my airtime and my focus changed. See,
Right,
that's what I want to say. That autoimmune thing changed the entire direction. We branched it out. We branched out. We became holistic. We did health. So that's what I want you to talk to. Can you talk to the point about starting to find your purpose, even if that silly crust busting your way to an awesome life? I'm going to have to go get the business card. Even if it doesn't make sense to anybody around you, how do you help people when they're feeling lost?
right. I think it comes down to finding what feeds your soul. And I know that's not a common expression, but I believe wholeheartedly that we need to feed our soul. And that that arises. That's when we know that we're going to do this whether we're getting paid for it or not. When we know that we may feel like, oh, I just don't want to do it today. And then we start, and all of a sudden, our day is so much brighter. Our day is so much better. We're energized.
Yeah,
We are excited. We're inspired. Those are the things. It's therapy.
it
When
is.
our life purpose is, dare I say, better than therapy, it's what moves us.
I work with young people. They used to be younger now. We all used to be young. I keep saying, they keep saying, we hear you talk about us. And I tell them I'm going to talk about them on air, but I'm not going to talk about them individually. And they listen. They're like, you keep saying young people. Like one of them says, dude, you've been working with us for 10 years. We're not that young anymore, right? But you still. So interesting thing happened. I want you to comment on it because if these amazing people, I'm just going to say, can figure out how to find a purpose in what they believe was incredible loss and grieving, anybody can do it. And I wanted to share this with you. And by the way, this group of people struggles with a number of diseases, autoimmune. I don't want to go into it, but they do. A large part of it is a result of some of the habits they've had in life, right?
Mhm.
Okay. Distraught. The election. 4 o'clock in the morning, my phone rings. I did not watch the thing. They're calling. We meet, and I say to them, this too shall pass. However, why don't you do more than just worry about it? Why don't you look at the landscape and see what it is that's going on out there? And so what happened is I gave him a little purpose. I asked him to go look. However, they've been looking now for 10 days. And out of their looking, they found an anomaly in one of the states. And once they found that purpose, now you can't stop them because now I have to deal with their frustration of trying to call governors, senators, and anybody that will listen to them. But you see what happened to that? That group of 10, I think there's 11 now, that group of 10 or 11 went from, I am not going to be able to wake up tomorrow. I'm going to drink. Now, can that happen for everybody else out there?
I believe it can happen for every single person. I think we all are here with a purpose. And it's amazing when, because I do psychotherapy as well, and when one of my clients goes from this struggle and this frustration and this ongoing angst, on that day, and I'm thinking of one person in particular, and I remember during our session, the light bulb came on. After that, meeting with them is, I barely have to do anything. They're so inspired and motivated.
Yep.
And I say, what's the next step? And they know the answer and they're motivated. And life becomes so much easier regardless of what is going on
Yeah.
outside of that.
Yeah, and I want to clarify something for you all because I talked about this on the other. I use my mentor's process of ceremonial circle and talking stick. Now, I want to say something. You may be thinking, oh, these are all people that voted for one party or the no. This is a diverse group of people that had their own emotions and feeling across the board. They're diverse. They're not all over here or over there. There's an interesting mix, and it's always great to hear them. So, what is the point? The point is there is a purpose that we can find in every day of our lives. And let's break it down to this simplistic view. If we're talking to, what is it? Pie in the sky. I just want to say, I didn't go from that crust busting show to being the owner of one of the largest positive centric networks in the world. No, it was crust busting, more channels, more crust busting, getting sick, interviewing doctors, more crust busting, getting sick, right? Talk
Absolutely.
about that breakdown.
I think people expect to wake up one day and learn they won the lottery, metaphorically speaking.
Oh,
It's not that. It's, oh, wow, I really love working with dogs. And then they get a dog And from that dog, they decide that they want to get into training. So they get into training. And from there, they get into competing. And from there, and it just grows. It's a step-by-step process that creates this beautiful, harmonious journey that, again, we want to wake up every morning because it's exciting to find that next step. It's exciting to embrace it.
I love what you're doing. I don't know how to say this any stronger to you all out there. This is somebody that has been in the trench. I mean, literally been in the trenches, the trauma trenches of war. Hello. But this is somebody, with you, not only did you live the experience, but you found the solution, hence the name of what you do. What is your vision and wish for the people listening today? Because we have the stats now. Ryanne, we have the stats. We're seeing the autoimmune numbers go through neurodivergent. The kids they're not kids, but okay, the kids that I work with, they're making these cool neurodivergent t-shirts now because they're not shamed as much for it.
Right.
But what's your message? How can we help people pick up the phone, send an email, or call to take that first step of action? Stop suffering.
Yes, absolutely. Stop suffering. Take action. If you feel resonated to do the Discover Solutions Autoimmune Warrior program, sign up. Absolutely. If that's too much of a step for you, start watching some videos. Get on Transformation Network. Listen to every show there is. Start finding the positive in every day until things start to click, things start to gel. And you know that tomorrow when you wake up, you're going to want to get out of bed, even if you don't know how you're going to feel.
Shirley MacLaine said something to me. Right. I remember being the opening act for Shirley when she came to Seattle. And I wasn't scared like a lot of people, but she called me in the green room for about 3 hours. And she looked at me and she said, "Do you know how to own the stage?" And I looked at her and said, "Probably not the way you do." And she grabbed me by the hand and she walked me on the Benaroya Hall stage here in Seattle. It's our symphony hall. And she grabbed me by the hand and we're walking out on the stage and clearly everybody cleared the deck. And she says, "This is a metaphor, but it's not. You have to own the stage and the stage of your life. You have to own your possibilities." And Ryanne, that's what you're doing. You are helping people own their possibilities. And I hope they reach out to you because there's no time to waste right now.
Absolutely. Today is never going to come back. And we don't know how many more tomorrows we're going to have. Don't waste a single one of them.
I agree. And for those of you out there that have listened to our last show, you asked us if we're going to be talking about Lyme. I believe that maybe we will do a show on that. 2 things you should know. Yes, we are. Lyme Global never went down, but Lyme Global, the website, will be resurrected, up-leveled. Lyme Talk Radio did not go away, and we will be starting a series with that again. Again, that is in the launch of our wellness channel, but people have asked for this. And I know you work with people with Lyme, right? Because
Yes.
The one thing we know now about Lyme disease, it is not a tick bite and an antibiotic to get rid of it.
Correct.
Go get them. Ryanne, thank you so much for today. Give out your website again.
Thank you so much. You can find me at discoversolutions.net.
Beautiful. And reach out, join the groups, Discover Solutions Autoimmune Warriors program, sign up. Don't do this alone and don't wait. Thank you, Ryanne, for everything. Thank you for tuning us in. And you're like texting me. My group is texting me already. And they're saying, don't forget to mention that we are still, don't forget to mention the group that I work with. They are still on track and they are on purpose. Thank you all for tuning us in and turning us on. We'll see you next time.
You've been listening to the Discover Solutions Show, Autoimmune Warriors Embracing Joy each and every day. For more support and understanding that autoimmune can often affect mental as well as physical health, Tune in every month on transformationtalkradio.com, where Ryanne Stellingwerf and Dr. Pat help you learn to see the positive, the gifts, and the blessings that surround you. Don't put your life and your joy on hold until you feel better. Feel better now by putting your life and your joy first. For more information about Ryanne, visit discoversolutions.net.